There was some high drama on another flight, this one en route from Toronto to Panama. A passenger on board got so unruly he was perceived to be a threat. Such a threat, in fact, 2 American F-16s were scrambled to turn the plane around and escorted back to Toronto. As Mike Drolet reports, heavily armed police were there to greet it.
It was a moment of chaos, terrifying for the passengers of Flight 772. 6 heavily armed tactical officers, weapons drawn, very clear with their commands.
Heads down!
Their target, a man sitting in row 7, who went from complaining about the taxes on cigarettes to alleged threats regarding the plane. Bettina Bay, the retired commercial pilot, says she was scared what the man might do.
He destroyed the window panel. But he really was focused on his cigarettes, the taxes. He hated Canada and he wanted to bomb Canada.
We heard him speaking, we heard him yelling. He was being pretty belligerent. He was using a lot of cuss words. He said he didn't care if what happened to the plane or the people on it, and he didn't like Canada and didn't care about Canada. Didn't care about the consequences to his actions. Literally didn't care if the plane went down.
Flight 772 departed Toronto for Panama at 7 a.m. with 189 people on board. Roughly 45 minutes into the flight, when the plane was over West Virginia, pilots were made aware of threats to the aircraft from a passenger and activated their emergency response plan and turned back to Toronto. 2 U.S. F-16 fighter jets were dispatched from Toledo, Ohio, to escort the plane to Canadian airspace, and the Boeing 737 landed safely at 8:55 a.m.
We've had unruly passenger situations where we've had to return. It's happened on a number of occasions, but this is the first time we've had a direct threat against an aircraft in flight.
25-year-old Ali Shahi was arrested and charged with mischief to property, mischief interfering with the lawful enjoyment of property, uttering threats, and endangering the safety of an aircraft. Despite the threats and aggression, Shahi wasn't restrained on the return trip.
He was taken into custody without incident, and it was our tactical officers that boarded the plane as per a protocol that is in place for this type of incident.
Shahi is in police custody. He'll appear in court tomorrow. Meanwhile, the passengers of Flight 772 had a very long day, waiting, worrying, before finally boarding another flight to Panama with a new crew later in the afternoon. Mike Drolet, Global News, Toronto.